I had to interject this part on Christianity because my mother's a Christian and she's one of the most spiritual people that I know. She's a Christian like no other Christian, like no other Christian. A lot of times people that are Christian get caught up in dogma and doctrine, and they end up being very, very narrow-minded people. Like, if you're not going to be saved, you're going to hell. And my mother looks at things more of like holistically. Um, she was in China when my father was stationed in Taiwan, and she went to Buddhist shrines, and she went to Hindu shrines and temples, and she reads the Quran, and she studies various other systems of spirituality. She still is a Christian. If you ask her, she's a Christian. She knows the Bible inside and out. And when Christians say things, she'll say, no, that's not true. Look at this and look at that in the Bible. And she knows how to not just read the Bible, but interpret the Bible. And that's the problem with a lot of Christians is they don't know how to read the Bible. They look at the Bible as if it is a tool, a weapon to be memorized. So when a person says something, oh, that goes against Philippians, in him is the power to do anything. And then in Proverbs 3:17, it says, and that is how they use the Bible as a weapon because a lot of people just don't sit around and memorize passages of the Bible. So they go to Bible studies and they can learn this passage. Okay, this passage has to do with misconduct on your job, and this kind of passage has to do with misconduct in your marriage, and this passage has to do with misconduct of your children, and so forth and so on in a punitive manner. Christianity has turned into a very punitive, draconian religion in every sense of draconian. So I had to switch locations. My computer was dying. Back to what I was saying about Christianity and other religions. So here's the issue with religions versus spirituality. Religions are normally filled with dogma and doctrine and rules and regulations. Like, for example, I have a family member who is a Christian and she rants and raves about how I'm going to hell because I have not chosen Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. Anyone who sees her will say she's suffering for what I call the Dorian Gray effect. And if you've never read the picture of Dorian Gray, you should pick it up and read it, or at the very least, you should read a summary of it. So, just in case you haven't, you're not familiar with the picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Dorian was a young man who said that he would give anything if he could remain young and his portrait could age. He had a very nice portrait done of him. And he realized that his wish came true. He started doing all kinds of terrible things to people. And he would come back and look at the painting, and first it would just have like a smirk, an evil looking smirk. Then it would have something else that looked really different about the painting. Like he killed someone and he noticed that the painting now had blood on his hands. And so all these years went by and he just lived an awful, awful life. And the painting aged while he did not. And by the end of the movie, and the book, of course, the painting was unbearable to look at. It was just a gruesome, gruesome picture. So at the very least, check that out. You'll see Dorian Gray. He was beautiful when he was young, and then the picture was gruesomely, gruesomely grotesque. So I call it the Dorian Gray effect because for every action, there is a reaction. And I even look at me, I consider myself to be an angelic human, and I always had really bad acne when I was young. And then as I got older, the blemishes came, and then my face cleared up. And then I went to certain stages where I started getting into a lot of things I should not have gotten into, and I could just look at how it began to age me, and then my hair fell out, and I just thankfully never had any really, really bad health problems. It just took a toll on my appearance. So, as I said earlier, one of the things I noticed was my hair started growing back. With me, my skin tone is really related to the sun. When I'm in the sunlight, I can take in more of that energy. Like when I had visited Ghana, the the sun just did wonders for my skin tone. It really, really does. So I live in Maryland where we have a four season type of year. So from probably, you know, May or June and all the way up until October, I really have a really good skin tone. But when it gets into the cold months, it just is awful for my skin. And it kind of masks that Dorian Gray effect that I've had just from the sins I committed in my life. But you'll see other people. Like I remember one time I saw a woman who was a cashier and she had like her knuckles were like all gnarled up and just and you could just tell it's like she probably was using her hands for things she shouldn't do. She probably was stealing or doing some other things that she shouldn't have done. um, you look at other people. The eyes are the window to the soul, as they say. You can look at people and you can tell that they have done certain things. Like, especially like you look at like military guys, they call it the 1,000 yard stare. It's just the look that someone gets in their eyes when they have killed and they have seen a lot of killing. There's also just, um, like I said before, other diseases. They manifest skin cancer. um, People have um, HIV, they start to get lesions, and you get various indications that that Dorian Gray effect has taken its toll on that person. It just starts to wear on them physically, and they start to look run down. So I call it the Dorian Gray effect because this family member has the most awful case of skin cancer. Like, I really feel sorry for her and I pray for her very often, because she's constantly talking about how someone's going to hell. But one thing about the Phantom Matrix you have to understand is that there are parts of the Phantom Matrix that will be indistinguishable from the regular Earth. And it won't be until um, that bifurcation is complete or as it goes farther on that those people will realize like there is something else going on. This is not what I thought it was. This is truly a living hell. And a lot of people now are going through that living hell. So one of the issues with Christianity people have is that, especially Catholicism, it tells you you can do whatever you want to do and you can be forgiven. You can recant on your deathbed and say, "Oh, I accept Jesus to save me, and I'll be fine." That is the worst false agenda ever because these people are living so selfishly. They're stealing, they're killing, they're raping, they're molesting. They are just awful, awful people. And then they say, I'm going to recant. I'm a saved Christian. I've been saved. Oh, I can die peacefully. And then somewhere on the other side, someone is going to tell them, hey, that's not how it works. I'm sorry. You're going to have to come back and try it again. Islam is the type of religion that has really run amok with terrorism and people misinterpreting what Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, first um, drove the tenets to be. Like, if you follow those five tenets, there's no way you would live a service to self existence where you're destroying and killing innocent people with bombs and you're terrorizing. You would never want to terrorize anything in the name of God. That is the most absurd thing ever that you would do something like that. When human beings are terrorized and killing each other and giving off that emotion, it feeds nothing but the will of the negative Chitauri and the other reptilians who feed off of our negative emotions. So please stop it. Stop killing. I dream of a planet, a living matrix where there's no killing on that planet. None. No killing. We should not be killing each other. It has to stop. Judaism, I don't know much about. I'm just sticking with the top three that are really perceived as leading people astray. And it's another one that leads people astray. I'm not a real student of the Torah, so I'm not going to speak on it as much. Now, when you come to other Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism, these spiritualities are on a better track of helping you to ascend. When you go into these Eastern religions, you have a better chance of reaching your highest light quotient and ascending because it teaches you peace with nature, peace with yourself. It goes basically, it's the total opposite spectrum of what Christianity and Western religions have really propagated over the years. So as this bifurcation continues, you'll start to notice that a lot of those people are going to have major calamities, and sometimes it's not going to be on television, and you just have to just trust in God that you'll be protected based upon how you live your life. And you'll see people, you say, man, they have so much money and they have a nice house and they have all these things and they seem that they are so powerful with their career and their family looks great, but deep down inside, there's something eating them alive because they're so selfish. They're so self orientated that their light quotient is very dim. You look at like African and black people, sometimes their skin will look really, really dark. And even if they're a light skinned person, like they'll be really, like their aura will be really dark to the point where their skin looks dark. And with European, Albion, white people, they just get like a really, really like crusty, scaly redness to their skin where the rapid aging is just really, really, their light quotient is very, very dim. And it doesn't have anything to do with what your ethnicity is. Anyone can ascend if they live a service to others' life. I've had plenty of, and my wife has had plenty of mentors who are Albion European, and they are some of the best people I've ever known in my entire life. Like, they are some of the best people I've ever known. And I judge people, like Dr. King said, based upon the quality of their character, not the color of their skin, because I've had, I've had enough Africans do the dirtiest thing to me. So it has nothing to do with your ethnicity. As far as the one part of the of Islamic I know that does have a lot on the ball are the Moors. Um, the Moors really have a lot of knowledge of who we are as African people in um, this prison of United States of America. The truth of who truly are the owners of this property, not on paper but spiritually and in the energy grids. It's really our land that's been usurped from us, and they really kind of feed into that and propagate all of that truth of how the United States has been really manipulated to be something it was not designed to be. Um, I'm really kind of learning about what the Moors do, so I really don't speak too much on it, but I do know they have that on the ball. So this is going to conclude our three-part video on the bifurcation of timelines. Our next video will be forthcoming, and it will touch upon the spirituality of your family and the interpretations of the Metu Neter. This is Ani Asar Sekerbah, the reincarnation of Ani the Scribe. Peace and blessings.